Chapter 3, Disconnection. Traumatic events call into question basic human relationships. They breach the attachments of family, friendship, love, and community. They shatter the construction of the self that is formed and sustained in relation to others. They undermine the belief systems that give meaning to human experience. They violate the victim's faith in a natural or divine order and cast the victim into a state of existential crisis. The damage to relational life is not a secondary effect of trauma as originally thought. Traumatic events have primary effects, not only on the psychological structures of the self, but also on the systems of attachment and meaning that link individual and community. Marty Horowitz defines traumatic life events as those that cannot be assimilated with the victim's inner schemata of self in relation to the world. Traumatic events destroy the victim's fundamental assumptions about the safety of the world, the positive value of the self, and the meaningful order of creation. The rape survivor Alice Sebold testifies to this loss of security. When I was raped, I lost my virginity and almost lost my life. I also discarded certain assumptions I had held about how the world worked and about how safe I was. Well, yes. I was raped. I was set up in a gang rape by a poet named Bob Holman, who came to Sydney on his way back from the Ukraine, right? New York, Ukraine, Sydney, and pretended that he wanted to do a show with me, but the show was just a total setup, and I have many videos illustrating this on my other secret site that I set up in 2013. So I let Bob into my world, which was the Housing Commission in Walker Street, Redfern at the time, opposite Poets Corner, funnily enough. And I gave him my room, and I slept in the spare room because that's the sort of hostess that I am. And he put a Mickey in my drink, and I think he organised this with Tony Bilson, and Tony Bilson is dead now, you know. God killed him. And so, you know, I can't actually remember the rape. But I do know when I had a shower the next day, there was like a needle mark in my arm. And I said to these two female frenemies, Nicorette and Tina, who knew exactly what was going on, I said, you know, I never fucked Bob when he stayed here, but I feel like I've been fucked by a cricket bat. And who knows whether that rape was videoed and is surfing around somewhere on the dark web. But I sort of fucked up Bob's plans because I just videoed him the whole time. And I told him later that if he ever came back to Australia again, I would have him arrested at the airport. You know, He could turn out to be the Epstein of the poetry community. Yes, that's the old Bowery Poetry Club. I worked there, but he sacked me. He sacked me when I wouldn't, fuck him. He mainly hired men, and he'd only hire women, if you'd fuck him. But he was, married to one of the most brilliant, artists in New York, in America. And actually, he wouldn't have even got that poetry club if she hadn't have given him the money that she won from her awards. I mean, this woman was, exhibited in MoMA. She was a high-level artist and a high-level human being, so I don't even want to mention her name while mentioning his name, Bob Holman, except his name's not really Holman. His name's really Geller, Geller. So he's a Geller fella. He's not a whole man, okay? You can't come to my country, set me up, gang rape me, try to make me kill myself, leave the country, and then if I survive, expect me to shut my mouth. He left me feeling like I'd been fucked like a cricket bat, and then now, how many years later are we looking at? 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, gosh, 8 years later. My brother has my mother's ashes. They all work together. 2013, they sent out all the sort of little, operatives all around the world. It's when my brother took all his international trips to triathlons all over the world. And that's when Bob, came to Sydney and then Melbourne. And, it was part of their so-called New World Order takeover. Well, oh, lovey, that didn't work out so well, did it? Right? Only took the Taliban 20 years to get their territory back. And now the Ruskies are about to take back the Ukraine. And I'll drink to that. I've got some vodka to have a chin-chin to the Ruskies. Taking back the Ukraine. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Chin-chin. I couldn't get Russian vodka. It's just too harsh. It's like rocket fuel. So I've sort of, I've gone the soft-core Absolute vodka with some pomegranate juice, 100% juice, no added sugar, nothing artificial. Potassium to nourish your nervous system. That's what we need. Nourishment for the nervous system. Chin chin. And you know who saved me after that diabolical gang rape? That I was totally drugged out by a poet, a New York poet named Bob Holman, who came into Sydney to do a show with me, but it wasn't a show, it was a takedown. So, how did I survive? My daddy-o, John Bridges Kennedy, he sent me to a Catholic silence retreat for 3 days, and they had this amazing, it was like an anti-labyrinth. It was like this walking path that I walked and prayed, and I somehow straightened out my fragmented mind. I don't know. I integrated. I healed. I can't even explain exactly what happened. But I never thought about that rape again after Dad had sent me to that silence retreat for 3 days that he paid for because he loved me, and it worked. And then I just carried on with my plan to look after my parents, but I didn't know, they were going to then send my brother in. It's been a long war, chickadees. A very, 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 very long war. And now I'm taking no prisoners. So, when Bob Holman and his posse of rapists couldn't take me down, well, it was actually more like an army than a posse. I'm understating, as I do. When he couldn't take me down, when he couldn't kill me off, they sent in my brother. They sent in my adopted brother to make sure that that camera was pulled out of my hands, because you know what? My camera drove Bob Holman crazy. I've got so much shit on him. The only thing that I didn't get to record was the rape, because, you know, I was drugged and then they stuck a needle in my arm because, you know, they were afraid the Mickey might not have been enough. And I'd wake up and pull out the camera again. So they had to go hardcore. And that's why I had to move out of that housing commission. They can do anything to you in a housing commission. Very scary ghetto that was. But thanks to my parents, I got out. Like Hawke said to me, "You're like Houdini, Kennedy." I blame Jesus.